Abbiamo la consapevolezza che non sappiamo ancora tutto, ma al tempo stesso è proprio questo limite che deve spingervi sempre in avanti, aiutarvi a mantenere accesa la fiamma della ricerca e a rimanere una finestra aperta al mondo di oggi.
Het is nog harder trappen, doorgebogen, een tandje hoger. Wie schuilt er in mijn schaduw? En stilletjes welt in het wenen. Toch weer het willen weten op.
So what I'd say to the students here is become a permanent student. Just because you happen to leave the walls of this glorious ancient town and university doesn't mean you have to forget being a student. You don't have to forget being a lunatic and a heretic and a doubter and a wanderer and an explorer.
Het is jezelf en iets kunnen verliezen om te vinden. En misschien zoek je niet zozeer om te vinden, maar vooral om jezelf, al is het maar heel even, door het gezochte, gevonden te weten.
Even with 600 years under its belt, it is clear that this university is still alive and kicking. We shall now proceed to the official conferral of our honorary doctorates. And the first honorary doctorate is awarded to the economist, banker and politician Mario Draghi. During the 2012 debt crisis, he steered the Eurozone into calmer waters. Mario Draghi is a man with a keen eye for figures, both an academic and a pragmatist, and one of the most influential European policymakers of his generation. The nominators for this honorary doctorate are Professor Erik Buist and Professor Hilke van den Bussen. And in the following laudatory video, they will explain why Mario Draghi is receiving this honorary degree today.
Het grootste probleem van Europa momenteel is een gebrek aan concurrentievermogen.
Wij moeten ons nu voorbereiden op een economie die veel competitiever is dan pakweg 30 jaar geleden.
Draghi heeft eigenlijk een interessant parcours afgelegd, omdat hij begonnen is als academicus. Hij heeft een doctoraat behaald van een hele prestigieuze instelling in de Verenigde Staten, het MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Is dan professor geworden aan verschillende Italiaanse universiteiten.
Maar ondertussen begon het blijkbaar te kriebelen bij hem om ook in het beleid actief te worden. En dan is hij in de jaren 90 secretaris-generaal geworden van de Treasury, van de schatkist.
Hij is dan voorzitter van de Europese Centrale Bank geworden. Net in een periode waar de euro onder druk kwam te staan, omwille van de financiële crisis.
En dan heeft Draghi toch wel op tafel geklopt, letterlijk. En heeft gezegd van kijk, whatever it takes, ik zal de euro redden.
We are here as the first exchange I'm having with several stakeholders for the preparation of the report of competitiveness of Europe.
We zitten nu in een situatie dat Europa werkelijk op de toppen van zijn tenen moet staan om weerwerk te bieden tegenover de Amerikaanse economie die zeer performant is. En zeker ten opzichte van de Chinese economie die heel wat producten naar ons exporteert en eigenlijk hele sectoren toch wel in moeilijkheden brengt.
En dat is een van de grote belangrijke bijdragen van Mario Draghi, dat hij een rapport geschreven heeft rond competitiviteit in Europa en eigenlijk een soort draaiboek uitgeschreven heeft op basis waarvan we een richting hebben in de welke we die concurrentievermogen van Europa naar de toekomst toe zouden kunnen verbeteren. En daar heeft hij zich over gebogen in 2024. Daaruit is dan een rapport ontstaan, het Draghi-rapport.
En op die manier denk ik toch wel dat Draghi ons een kompas aanlevert om de economische groei in Europa terug aan te zwengelen. Het is toch wel belangrijk dat je mensen hebt die beslissingen doorleefd hebben meegemaakt, dat het geen boekenwijsheid is die in de praktijk wordt gebracht. Want we weten allemaal dat theorie en praktijk dat toch wel verschillende zaken zijn. En op die manier kunnen we toch wel zeggen dat we onze toekomst met het Draghi-plan in goede handen is.
Iemand die vanuit de academische hoek de stap zet naar het publieke leven als civil servant, als ambtenaar zich ten dienste stelt van het welzijn en de welvaart van zijn land, maar ook van de ruimere Europese Unie tot welke zijn land op dat moment behoorde, om daar zijn handen vuil te maken, als ik het zo mag zeggen, om toch te trachten een verschil te maken. En dat, in mijn ogen, is staatsmanschap dat overstijgt het individuele belang. Dat is iemand die wil werken voor het algemene belang.
We hebben een man met ervaring, een man met gezond verstand, een man met veel academische diepgang. En zoveel mensen van dat kaliber lopen er niet rond. Niet in Europa, maar ook niet op wereldvlak.
En als je die capaciteit hebt en je voelt dat je een verschil kan maken, dan gebruik je talent en je zet dat in voor het algemeen welzijn. En dat vind ik een heel mooi gegeven.
Om al deze redenen, mevrouw de rector, verzoeken wij u op voordracht van de Academische Raad
het eredoctoraat van de KU Leuven te verlenen aan professor Dr. Mario Draghi.
Professor Mario Draghi, KU Leuven is honoring you for your exceptional contribution to the process of European economic and monetary integration, for your leadership grounded in responsibility, calm judgment, and intellectual rigor in times that the Eurozone was facing an existential crisis, for providing a strategic compass that positions the European Union successfully within a rapidly changing world characterized by looming fragmentation and geopolitical tensions, for combining academic work with a strong dedication to public service, which serves as an example for future generations. For all these reasons, I hereby bestow upon you, in my capacity as Rector of KU Leuven and with the approval of the Academic Council, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa of our university.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank the University of Leuven for this extraordinary honor, and especially the rector, Séverine Vermeer, and the promoters. I mean, I was moved by the words they used. I don't think it ever happened to me to hear so many compliments about me. So Professor Eric Boyste and Professor Heike van den Busch, thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks all of you for your warm applause.
It's a great encouragement today. I intend to spend a few minutes with you giving sort of an overview of what is the landscape, at least the way I perceive it today in Europe. From its inception, the architecture of the European Union embodied the belief that international rule of law, upheld by credible institutions, fosters peace and prosperity. Since no European state retained the capacity to defend itself alone, our security doctrine was shaped by the protection afforded by America. Together, and always in alliance with the United States, we were able to face any threat and deliver peace within Europe, between ourselves. And with our security guaranteed and trade flowing mainly within that alliance, we could safely pursue economic openness as the basis of our prosperity and influence. But the now defunct global order did not fail because it was built on illusion. By the way, while I'm saying that now defunct, I kind of have a hard time believing that it's actually defunct, it's dead. I just learned today that your extraordinarily beautiful library had been destroyed twice, one during the First World War and a second one during the Second World War. And on both occasions, it was rebuilt with the help and under the incentive of United States presidents. But that's what it is today. And for the time being, I think we should take facts for what they are. This order, I was saying, didn't fail because it was built on illusion, as some people are saying today. The order delivered real and widely shared gains for the United States, first and foremost, as hegemon via unquestioned influence in all domains and the privilege of issuing the world's reserve currency. For Europe, through deep trade integration and unprecedented stability. And for developing countries, through participation in the global economy, lifting billions out of poverty. The system's failure lies in what it could not correct. Once China joined the WTO, the boundaries of trade and security began to diverge. We had always traded beyond the alliance, but never before with a country of such scale and with ambitions to become a separate pole itself. Global trade drifted away from Ricardo's principle that exchange should follow comparative advantage. Some states pursued absolute advantage through mercantilist strategies, forcing deindustrialization onto others, while the gains that remained were unequally shared. We forgot about inequality. This sowed the political backlash we now face. At the same time, deep integration created dependencies that could be abused when not all partners were allies. Interdependence, once seen as a source of mutual restraint, became a source of leverage and control. Multilateral governance had no mechanism to address imbalances and no language to acknowledge dependencies. Faith in the mutual gains of trade made the very idea of weaponized dependence unthinkable. But the collapse of this order is not itself the threat. A world with less trade and weaker rules would be painful, but Europe would adapt. The threat is what may replace it. We face a United States that, at least in its current posture, emphasizes the costs it has borne while ignoring the benefits it has reaped. It is imposing tariffs on Europe, threatening our territorial interests, and making clear for the first time that it sees European political fragmentation as serving its interests. We face a China that controls critical nodes in global supply chains and is willing to exploit that leverage, flooding markets, withholding critical inputs, forcing others to bear the cost of its own imbalances. This is a future in which Europe risks becoming subordinated, divided, and deindustrialized at once. And a Europe that cannot defend its interests will not preserve its values for long. The transition from this order to whatever lies next will not be easy for Europe. We will face a long period in which interdependencies persist, even as rivalries intensify. We remain heavily dependent on the United States for energy, technology, and defense. China supplies over 90% of our rare earth imports and dominates the global solar and battery value chains that underpin our green transition. In this period, the best path for Europe is the one it is now pursuing: to conclude trade agreements with like-minded partners that offer diversification, and to deepen our position in supply chains where we are already critical. This is where Europe has power today. In 2023, the European Union was the world's largest exporter and importer of goods and services, with imports from the rest of the world totaling 3.6 trillion euros. It's also the largest trading partner of more than 70 countries. And we hold critical positions in several strategic industries. European firms control 100% of extreme ultraviolet lithography, the technology required to make advanced chips. We produce half the world's commercial aircraft. We design the engines that power the vast majority of global shipping. In this context, it's wrong to think of trade agreements primarily in terms of growth. Their purpose now is strategic: to strengthen our position and realign our relationships now that trade and security no longer fully overlap. But this is a holding strategy. It's not a destination. Individually, most European countries are not even middle powers capable of navigating this new order by forming coalitions, each bringing distinctive assets to the table, whether raw materials, technological niches, or strategic geography. But collectively, we have something greater: scale, wealth, political culture, and 75 years of building the institutions of a common project. Of all those now caught between the United States and China, Europeans alone have the option to become a genuine power themselves. So we must decide: do we remain merely a large market subject to the priorities of others? Or do we take the steps necessary to become one power? But let us be clear: grouping together small countries doesn't automatically produce a powerful bloc. This is the logic of confederation, the logic by which Europe still operates in defense, in foreign policy, in fiscal matters. This model does not produce power. A group of states that coordinates remains a group of states, each with a veto, each with a separate calculus, each vulnerable to being picked off one by one. Power requires Europe to move from confederation to federation. Where Europe has federated on trade, on competition, on the single market, on monetary policy, we are respected as a power and negotiate as one. We see this today in the successful trade agreements being negotiated with India and Latin America, where we have not, on defense, on industrial policy, on foreign affairs, we are treated as a loose assembly of middle-sized states to be divided and dealt with accordingly. And where trade and security intersect, our strengths cannot protect our weaknesses. A Europe unified on trade but fragmented on defense will find its commercial power leveraged against its security dependence, as is happening now. Some will say that we should not act until our position is stronger, until we are more unified, until escalation is less costly. But this trade-off is illusory. It is only by moving that we create the conditions to act more decisively later. Unity does not precede action. It is forged by taking consequential decisions together, by the shared experience and solidarity they create, and by discovering that we can bear the result. Consider Greenland. The decision to resist rather than accommodate required Europe to carry out a genuine strategic assessment, to map our leverage, identify our tools, and think through the consequences of escalation. The willingness to act forced clarity about the capacity to act. And by standing together in the face of a direct threat, Europeans discovered a solidarity that had previously seemed out of reach. The shared resolve resonated with the public in ways that no summit communiqué could have achieved. At the same time, building collective strength will not be the same for Europe as it has been for China, or now looks to be for the United States. The United States, in its current posture, seeks dominance together with partnership. China sustains its growth model by exporting its costs onto others. European integration is built differently, not on force, but common will, not on subjugation, but shared benefit. It is integration without subordination, vastly, vastly preferable, but vastly more difficult. This demands a different approach. I've called it a pragmatic federalism. Pragmatic because we must take the steps that are currently possible, with the partners who are actually willing in the domains where progress can currently be made. But federalism, because the destination matters. Common action and the mutual trust it creates must eventually become the foundation for institutions with real decision-making power institutions able to act decisively in all circumstances. This approach breaks the impasse we face today, and it does so without subordinating anyone. Member states opt in. The door remains open to others, but not to those who would undermine common purpose. We do not have to sacrifice our values to achieve power. The euro is the most successful example. Those who were willing went ahead, built common institutions with real authority, and through that shared commitment, forged a solidarity deeper than any treaty could have prescribed. And since then, 9 more countries have chosen to join. This would not be a straight path. As Schuman said in 1950, Europe will not be made all at once. Not all countries will join every initiative from the outset, whether in energy, technology, defense, or external policy. But every step must remain anchored in the goal, not loser cooperation, but a genuine federation. Some may delude themselves that the world hasn't really changed, or that geography makes them immune. Some may believe that surrendering economic independence, or even territory, doesn't threaten their ability to preserve the values that define us. But that should not stop the more clear-sighted from forging ahead. We are all in the same position of vulnerability, whether we see it yet or not. The old divisions that paralyzed us have been overtaken by a common threat. But threat alone will not sustain us. What began in fear must continue in hope. As we act together, we will rediscover something that has long been dormant: our pride, our self-confidence, our belief in our future. And on that foundation, Europe will be built. Thank you.
Thank you for your inspiring words, Mr. Draghi. Our next honorary doctorate is awarded to the Pakistani lawyer Hina Jilani. She is globally recognized as one of the foremost champions of human rights, with a particular focus on the rights of women. Hina Jilani has already received numerous international prizes, including the Millennium Peace Prize for Women and the Stockholm Human Rights Award. And today she adds an honorary doctorate from KU Leuven to that distinguished list. It was the KU Leuven's Student Council that put her forward for this honorary doctorate. Please join us in watching this video.
Haar passie en engagement komt eigenlijk voornamelijk vanuit dat ze als kind haar vader in de gevangenis heeft gezien, omdat hij zich heel hard uitsprak ten opzichte van het regime in Pakistan.
En van daaruit is haar motivatie en haar engagement gekomen om ook rechten te gaan studeren en zich in te zetten voor mensenrechten en de rechten van minderheden en van politieke gevangenen. Hina Jilani is een
advocaten en vrouwenrechtenactiviste uit Pakistan. Ze is deel van het Hoogste Rechtshof van Pakistan, waar dat ze via eigenlijk verschillende mijlpaalarresten de wet heeft veranderd om meer representatie van vrouwen in Pakistan te brengen en ook vrouwenrechten te verankeren. Ze heeft samen met haar zus het eerste volledig vrouwelijke advocatenkantoor opgericht. En die dus heel veel, voornamelijk rond discriminatie ten opzichte van vrouwen, zaken aanneemde en zaken aanvochten.
En daarnaast heeft ze ook het opvanghuis Dastak in Pakistan opgericht. Een opvanghuis waar vrouwen terecht kunnen na partnergeweld om terug op een veilige en gezonde manier autonomie terug te vinden om hun leven verder te zetten.
Ze is co-voorzitter van de International Task Force on Justice, wat een taskforce is die als doel heeft om alle mensen eigenlijk het toegang en recht te geven tot juridische bijstand, ongeacht status, geld, uit welke groep mensen je komt. Ze heeft heel veel doodsbedreigingen gekregen rond haar werk als mensenrechtenactiviste. Maar desondanks heeft ze altijd gekozen om in Lahore te blijven wonen en daar niet van te vluchten. Omdat ze dat echt wel belangrijk vindt om tussen de mensen te blijven staan.
Omdat ze op die manier ook vanuit de ervaring die ze heeft, gekoppeld met dan haar expertise als advocaat, eigenlijk heel gericht kan actie ondernemen om de dingen aan te kaarten die mislopen. Ik denk dat Hina Jilani de waarde van de KU Leuven belichaamt, omdat ze eigenlijk zowel haar expertise als advocaat gaat combineren met maatschappelijke gebeurtenissen. Ja, die combinatie van kennis en expertise en die dan gaan gebruiken om maatschappelijke problemen aan te kaarten of de wereld eigenlijk proberen een betere plaats te maken, belichaamt in mijn ogen heel hard de waarde van de KU Leuven.
Wat Hina Jilani doet is heel belangrijk activistisch zijn met een gegronde basis. Dat ze zegt, deze wet is onrechtvaardig om deze en deze redenen en hierom wil ik de wet zo aanpassen. Activistisch zijn om een bepaalde reden en vanuit een bepaalde informatie, een bepaalde expertise om verandering vragen. Dat is iets wat de academische wereld ook heel vaak doet en mag doen.
Ze is niet enkel inspiratie voor heel veel vrouwen in Pakistan en de wereld, maar eigenlijk gewoon een inspiratie voor iedereen ter wereld die in aanraking komt of die onrecht ziet gebeuren, om moed en kracht te tonen om in heel moeilijke omstandigheden soms onrecht te benoemen en ook aan te vechten.
Haar levensmotto is voor mij echt een inspiratie. If you see injustice in the world, do something about it, otherwise you don't have the right to complain.
Om al deze redenen, mevrouw de rector, verzoeken wij u op voordracht van de Academische Raad
het eredoctoraat van KU Leuven te verlenen aan Hina Jilani.
Ms. Jilani, KU Leuven is honoring you for your exceptional commitment to human rights, especially for women, minorities, and vulnerable groups, for your pioneering role in the development of new human rights legislation, both in Pakistan and in an international context, for your unwavering courage, your exemplary leadership, and your continuous contribution towards justice and democratic values. For all these reasons, I hereby bestow upon you, in my capacity as Rector of KU Leuven, and with the approval of the Academic Council, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa of our university. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Needless to say how honored I feel today to receive this honorary doctorate degree from this very prestigious university. It is of even a greater honor for me that my nomination came from the Students' Council. And I thank the Students' Council, particularly Lotte van Maak and Roald van Bissen. I have had a difficult journey, and there are many perils in defending human rights. But I just want to say, I have not regretted the past 40 years that I have been engaged in this work, both in courts and on the streets, protesting against injustice, against discrimination, against the erosion of human dignity for all those marginalized communities that stand firm in their belief that they are humans and human beings entitled to equality and to dignity. I've always tried, in my work as a lawyer, to emphasize the constitutional guarantees of equality and equal protection of the law. I have fought for those who have no voice. I'm a part of a group called the Elders. And when this group was selected by Nelson Mandela to promote human rights, democracy, and the rule of law globally, he gave us a mission. The primary purpose of that mission was to amplify the voices of those who are never heard, or if heard, are persecuted for what they say. And these are the people, I think, who deserve our support. They deserve the emphasis that we lay on fundamental freedoms in a global order that recognizes and respects the collective wisdom in the international human rights framework. I'm afraid our troubles are not over yet. I've always felt that my work, when I see back, it always has this one step forward and two steps backward. But I've always had my eye on the one step forward, and to build on that step forward, and to make sure that the two steps backward does not deter the defense of human rights, the belief in human rights. I recall the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The first article of that covenant says, every human being is endowed with reason and a conscience. These days, when you look around, that belief is fairly confounded and defies the reality of things that are there, that the covenant presumes. But at the same time, I think there is always hope. I believe in my struggle. For me, sometimes success comes as a bonus, because while I'm struggling, I am informing people. I am making people aware of the values that we all share. And as I said in the beginning, it is a privilege for me that this university is bestowing me with an honor. And that excitement that I have is largely because when I read about the university and the 600 years of bestowing knowledge, the basis of that knowledge are the values that I share. And being amongst people who have been given this honor today with me is a further cause of, let me say, happiness for me, because I am amongst those who share those values, who believe in going forward, forging the way forward for peace, for security for all, and equality for all. Many times, young people have asked me, what is your message for the young people? And I tell them again and again, I have no message to give you. Every generation charts its own course. The only thing I can say is, look around you. Don't fail to recognize where injustice is. Don't fail to feel the outrage that brings to you the consciousness that you have to act. There is hope. Human rights defenders like myself, and like many of you here, cannot afford the luxury of pessimism. So young people, ladies and gentlemen, and friends, my plea is, the dwindling values need to be upheld. I'm particularly grateful to Mr. Draghi, who has very clearly said there's no reason why we cannot reverse the downturn that we are experiencing today. So I leave you with this message. I'm willing to fight. I know that you are. Let us make others believe in our success. For as long as we struggle, there is hope. If we stop struggling, hope will go away. Thank you.
Congratulations on your honorary doctorate, Ms. Jelani, and thank you for your unwavering commitment to human rights. Our next honorary doctorate is being awarded to Professor Raymond Goldstein. He's a pioneer in the physics of life, a young branch of physics that focuses not on an inanimate matter, such as the stars, for instance, but rather on living systems, such as cells, bacteria, and human beings. Let us take a moment to watch his laudation video featuring Professor Enrico Carlon and Professor Christian Maas.
Er is iets werkelijk heel erg bijzonder aan ons universum. Het herbergt leven.
Als je denkt aan levende systemen zoals bacteriën of cellen, denk je aan de biologie en niet aan de fysica.
Fysica heeft sinds lang de ambitie om alomvattend te zijn, om fundamenteel te zijn als natuurwetenschap. En daarom zal fysica zich ook meer en meer willen bezighouden met het biologisch functioneren en wordt het dus ook een fysica van het leven.
Professor Goldstein is een persoon die een duidelijke stap heeft gemaakt in de richting van biologie.
Als we spreken over de fysica van het leven, dan denken we ook aan het bestuderen van biologische systemen met de methodes en de inzichten van de fysica.
Een van zijn favoriete organismen die hij bestudeert is een kleine alge, die heet Volvox. En een van de vragen was hoe de multicellulariteit is komen ontstaan.
We hebben heel veel systemen in de biologie waar er zweepstaarten aanwezig zijn, een soort van wissers. En je zou kunnen denken dat die allemaal apart gestuurd worden. Maar nu blijkt dat ze zich ook kunnen synchroniseren, zoals een beetje de ruitenwissers van de auto. Die gaan niet elk apart een eigen leven hebben, maar die gaan ook samen iets betekenen.
Er is een zeer complexe interactie tussen de verschillende cellen in die organismen. Die zorgen en die maken dat het hele organisme zich verplaatst in een bepaalde richting. En dat is merkwaardig, want die organisme is niet zoals bij ons. We hebben een brein, terwijl daar is niks. Maar toch, dat werkt.
Ik ben in contact gekomen met het werk van professor Goldstein op een meer frivole manier, zou ik durven zeggen. Namelijk, professor Goldstein heeft samen met collega's de IG Nobelprijs gekregen voor het werk dat ze gedaan hebben. Fantastisch werk trouwens. In verband met ponystaarten. En een van de belangrijke inzichten daar is dat als het haar uit de strop komt, dan gebeurt dat met een bepaalde hoek van ongeveer 17 graden. Dat is universeel, onafhankelijk van de lengte van het haar. En door daarover na te denken en meer te begrijpen over wat het werk van Goldstein is, heb ik ontdekt inderdaad dat hij een heel belangrijke rol speelt in die ontwikkeling van de fysica van het leven.
Er is iemand die een brug heeft gemaakt tussen twee disciplines. En dat vind ik heel mooi en inspirerend, want wie heeft een grens geplaatst tussen wat is fysica, wat is biologie en chemie. En eigenlijk, als je denkt, de natuur kent die grenzen niet. En dus we hebben eigenlijk mensen nodig die durven bruggen maken. Dus professor Goldstein is een van de beste figuren, een van de beste wetenschappers ter wereld die zo'n brug heeft gemaakt. Om al deze redenen, mevrouw de rector,
verzoeken wij u op voordracht van de Academische Raad
het eredoctoraat van de KU Leuven te verlenen
aan professor Dr. Raymond Goldstein.
Professor Raymond Goldstein, KU Leuven is honoring you for your pioneering role and outstanding contributions to the emerging field of the physics of life, demonstrated through your investigations into the physical mechanisms that govern the dynamics and organization of living cells. For your steadfast commitment to an exemplary practice of curiosity-driven scientific research, which has expanded the boundaries of physics and inspired new life-oriented perspectives. For your strong dedication to a multidisciplinary approach that integrates experimental, computational, and theoretical work conducted at the highest scientific standards. For your efforts and highly valued communication skills, which have enabled you to engage the general public in scientific thinking and to foster a broader appreciation and passion for the physics of life. For all these reasons, I hereby bestow upon you, in my capacity as Rector of KU Leuven and with the approval of the Academic Council, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa of our university. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Rector Vermeer and Professors Carlon and Mas, for those very kind words. That deeply embarrassing video has said all I think that needs to be said about the scientific aspects that have brought me here. I'm deeply honored to be recognized for our work in biological physics, and at the same time, I am humbled to share an honor conferred for such fundamental values as human rights to giants like Archbishop Oscar Romero. That video has illustrated to you many of the important issues that we've focused on over the past years in biological physics. I thought I should remind you that biological physics is actually a very old field. It dates back to the pioneering microscopy work of people like Antony van Leeuwenhoek in the Netherlands, Bonaventura Corti in Italy, and Robert Hooke in my home country now of the United Kingdom. And it continues to the present as this field has undergone a remarkable renaissance in the past 30 years. I want to keep my remarks brief, taking a cue from Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, so bear with me. The advances in this field have come about, as you've seen, from a synergistic combination of experiment and theory, but with motivation coming both from physics and biology. The particular question we've been focused on is basically how do the simplest single-cell organisms that first emerged from the primordial soup become not only larger in the sense of having more cells, but also more complex in the sense of having more cell types. And it has been a privilege to contribute in some small way to the growth of this field in working together with so many extraordinary students, postdocs, and researchers from multiple fields, mathematics, physics, and biology, and with generous and flexible support from a large number of funding bodies. I think I'll close actually with a quote from Archbishop Romero. He said, "This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capabilities." Thank you.
My warmest congratulations to you too, Professor Goldstein. Now for a bit of music. And I think the technicians are ready to put on the stage, because we are introducing 23 saxophones from Lucca School of Arts, Campus Lemmens, conducted by the composer Kevin Houben. Kevin Houben is a household name here in Leuven. Not only did he study at Lucca Campus Lemmens, but he was also commissioned by KU Leuven to compose a brand new piece for the grand 600th anniversary of Leuven University. And so, Beyond the Horizon of Thought saw its world premiere last year. On that celebratory occasion, 3 university ensembles shared the stage, featuring no less than 250 musicians in total. It was an unforgettable experience for everyone who was there, and now we are going to relive that moment as they perform a movement from that very anniversary piece, Chasing the Mystery, specially arranged for 23 saxophone players. Perhaps a round of applause for our fantastic technical team. Who is preparing the stage now, and then in just a moment, Lucca Sax, conducted by Kevin Houben. Well, a stage change for 23 saxophone players requires slightly more time than for a string trio, for instance. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful performance of Chasing the Mystery, a movement from the anniversary work, Beyond the Horizon of Thought. And imagining the future, that is, of course, a theme that resonates deeply with each of our honorary doctors today. Okay, our next honorary doctorate is being awarded to Karen Breitmeyer. She's a leading authority in the field of inclusive architecture. Honoring Ms. Breitmeyer underscores the fact that architecture thrives on a plurality of perspectives. It serves as an invitation to all students in all their diversity to help build a more inclusive world. I invite you to join us in watching this laudation video by Professor Freddy Floré and Professor Anne Heiligen.
Leren ontwerpen, dat doe je eigenlijk zoals je leert zwemmen. Dus niet alleen met je hoofd, met je brein, maar met je hele zijn, met wie je bent, met wat je kunt in interactie met de omgeving. En dat betekent dat mensen met verschillende breinen en verschillende lichamen op verschillende manieren leren ontwerpen, wat potentieel een verrijking is voor het veld van architectuur.
Als we ons een architect verbeelden, gaan we die heel vaak nog als mannelijk verbeelden. En als we voor een diverse samenleving willen ontwerpen, dat we eigenlijk best een divers korps aan stemmen hebben die meebouwen aan een maatschappij die er is voor ieder.
Karen Brightmeyer is een Amerikaanse architecte die in Seattle Studio Pacifica heeft opgericht. Als jonge architect werkte zij in een mainstream architectenbureau en zij merkte dat haar collega-architecten vaak onnodig, ontoegankelijke elementen in hun ontwerpen introduceerden.
Ze heeft eigenlijk een studiebureau opgericht wat vertrekt vanuit haar anders zijn. Ze heeft rond zich medewerkers geschaard en die ook vanuit die eigenheid ontwerpen.
Enerzijds heeft zij die ervaring, anderzijds spreekt zij als architect de taal van architectuur. Zij is heel erg gepassioneerd door ontwerpen en zij weet ook wat het is om als architect voor een opdrachtgever op tijd en binnen budget te moeten opleveren. Dus zij kent de druk waaronder dat architecten werken. En die combinatie maakt eigenlijk dat zij uniek geplaatst is om architecten en hun opdrachtgevers te gaan adviseren over hoe dat zij hun ontwerpen inclusiever kunnen maken.
De maatschappij is eigenlijk een open plek, open te denken, waar je zou moeten kunnen zijn wie je bent. En dus Karen Brightmeyer is in die zin een heel mooi rolmodel voor toekomstige studenten, om ook te zien hoe we diverse aspecten van wat het leven is en van onze gebouwde omgeving, de diverse uitdagingen die er zijn voor diverse mensen, om die allemaal te kunnen meenemen.
Zij heeft zelf al aangegeven dat voor jonge mensen met een beperking de belangrijkste obstakels om een loopbaan in architectuur te beginnen net die professionele en academische stereotypering zijn. Wat ik heel sterk vind is dat ze in plaats van te klagen over de huidige cultuur binnen architectuur, dat zij samen met haar team toont wat het kan betekenen om concreet aan een nieuwe cultuur te werken. Dus ja, dat vind ik bijzonder inspirerend.
Wat ik ook wel heel bijzonder vind, is dat ze een hobby heeft die ook wel bijzonder is, het zeilen. Een hobby die ook wel niet voor de hand ligt, denk ik, maar ja, dus de soort daadkracht waarmee ze misschien ook beslist heeft om architectuur te doen, die zit voor een stuk, of die lees ik in elk geval ook in hoe ze beslist heeft om van zeilen een van haar hobby's te maken. Ik vind het wel een prachtig voorbeeld. Ja.
Om al deze redenen, mevrouw de rector, verzoeken wij u op voordracht van de Academische Raad om het eredoctoraat van de KU Leuven te verlenen aan Karen Brightmeyer.
Miss Karen Brightmeyer, KU Leuven is honoring you for breaking with existing role models and offering an inspiring alternative to young people who consider a career in architecture, for showing how being different can be a strength in practicing architecture and countering exclusion, for celebrating the diversity of embodied knowledge and fostering a new culture through Studio Pacifica's collective practice, for encouraging, guiding, and mentoring others, whether students or architecture professionals with or without disabilities, to contribute to a more inclusive world. For all these reasons, I hereby bestow upon you, in my capacity as Rector of KU Leuven, and with the approval of the Academic Council, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa of our university. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am immensely grateful for this honor, and you can tell just a little bit emotional. It is with sincere thanks and humility that I accept this honorary doctorate today from KU Leuven and join a remarkable group of luminaries, 5 of whom have joined me on the stage today. Recognizing that for 600 years, KU Leuven has identified outstanding individuals who have made significant changes in our world, I am even more surprised and humbled to be included in that group. I also accept, on behalf of other architects who are not yet comfortable self-identifying as people with disabilities, choosing to believe the ableist viewpoint that having a disability means that in some way they are lesser or weaker. I believe that being proud of my disability means that I am bringing a richer perspective to my work. And of course, I believe architecture is the greatest job in the world. When I went to architecture school, I was quite the anomaly. My professors were willing to work outside the box to enable me to be successful in design studio. Largely because I was not the same size as those big drafting tables and stools that we used to have in the old days. Even today, our profession has very few people with disabilities in the ranks. People like me who give other architects the chance to see the world from the perspective of a person with disability, just as we see the world every day through the lens of people without disabilities. I see my lived experience as a great benefit. As Anne mentioned in the video, I have a foot in both worlds. As my career moved forward, I decided that I wanted to make sure that my family and friends, and yes, me, that we could get into the projects that I worked on. And I thought my career might benefit from a focus in making the world more accessible. So to that end, if you know a young person with disability who shows an interest in design, take this chance to mentor them. Invite them to shadow an architect. Help them see that this profession is for them and they belong in it. You know, that old school image, maybe it's from the movies of, architects have to be able to climb scaffolding on the job site and handle giant sheets of paper. That is long gone. Technology has opened doors for us all, literally and figuratively. There are so many tools today that make it possible for people with different abilities to thrive in this field. I believe, in my experience, the ability to visualize three-dimensionally is really the primary critical skill that you have, that innate ability. If you can do that, Those of us who come before you can help you figure out how to get that idea that's in your head out onto paper or the computer so that another person can build your vision. The best architecture happens when people designing the space actually reflect the people who are going to use it. At my office, Studio Pacifica, we talk a lot about sharing the why of accessibility. Because once our clients understand why inclusion matters, why that dimension that you're using means something to people of particular abilities, not just on paper, but in people's lives, they come alongside us. And together we create spaces that welcome and include more people. And as a reminder, architects have a responsibility, not just a technical responsibility, but an ethical responsibility to design for everyone who inhabits the spaces we create. Accessible design, and not just about people who use wheelchairs, have mobility limitations, or can't see or hear well. It's about anyone who has ever felt othered by the built environment. Accessible design is just good design. It's designed for the full range of human. So, I encourage you to promote inclusion as a design value, not an optional feature. Inclusion shouldn't be something we ask our clients for permission to include. It should be baked into our work from day one. I had a young architect once ask me, when do I ask the client if they want the project to be accessible? And I was genuinely shocked. The answer is you don't ask. You just do it, because that's good practice in what we do. So, when we treat accessibility as an optional upgrade, we send the message that it's an extra, that it's not actually necessary, and that is not true. It's our job to show our clients that good design doesn't exclude, it includes. So this may have turned into a bit of a call to action. In my world, we might be a little bit at risk in losing some of the legislation that has made such headroads in terms of making projects accessible. But that's not the only reason why we architects should do this work. We do it because it matters, it helps people, it's the right thing to do. So we believe it's about community and social justice and designing with intention. So in conclusion, I thank the Academic Council of KU Leuven, the Rector, Severine Vermeer, and my promoters, Anne Heilischen and Freddie Flory, for selecting me for this tremendous honor. Thank you, and dank u wel.
Congratulations, Ms. Breitmeyer. And since you like to sail, I'd like to wish you fair winds for the future. Thank you so much. On to our next honorary doctorate, which is awarded to Professor James Elkins. He's one of the most influential art historians of his generation. He uniquely succeeds in elevating academic writing about art into an art form itself. Many of his books are bestsellers, and today his distinguished body of work is being recognized with an honorary doctorate. And Professor Elkins was nominated by Professor Sacha Bru and Professor Hilde van Gelder.
Hoe wordt anders op de planeet naar kunst gekeken? Hoe wordt ze ervaren? Hoe wordt ze onderwezen? Welke termen, welke begrippen kunnen wij ook bijvoorbeeld hier in het Westen lenen van die rijke diversiteit?
James Elkins staat bekend om de experimentele kunstgeschiedenis. Dat is een term die hij zelf naar voren heeft geschoven. En hij bedoelt daarmee dat we moeten nadenken hoe we als kunstwetenschappers naar beelden kijken en daarmee omgaan. Hij pleit ervoor om te schrijven met beelden in plaats van enkel over beelden.
En wat moet je je daarbij voorstellen? Dat is niet het gebruik maken van beelden als illustraties, maar dat is eigenlijk beelden, dingen laten doen die je met tekst niet helemaal gezegd krijgt, zonder dan tekst te gebruiken om te zeggen wat die beelden doen.
Als we naar een foto kijken, dan gaan we er gemakkelijk van uit dat wat er op de foto afgebeeld staat ook echt de realiteit is. Elkins doet ons inzien dat een foto in feite ondoordringbaar is. Hij stelt dat de foto een spiegel is die enkel terugkaatst naar onszelf.
Een van de grote verdiensten van het werk van James Elkins is dat hij een poging heeft ondernomen om de studie van kunst, de studie van menselijke creativiteit en de verbeelding ook terug open te breken door te gaan samenwerken met mensen uit andere disciplines en dialogen aan te gaan met antropologen, met filosofen, cultuurhistorici, natuurwetenschappers en zo meer.
Hij heeft standaardwerken geschreven over kunstkritiek en heeft door de jaren heen een heel sterk pleidooi geleverd tegen wat hij descriptieve kunstkritiek noemt. Dat is een kunstkritiek die weigert om te oordelen over kunst en daar heeft James Elkins een probleem mee. We moeten onszelf kunnen verplichten en dat ook durven om na te denken over het oordeel in de kunst en daar ambitieus in te zijn. James Elkins verdient dit eredoctoraat omwille van zijn diep gedragen experimentaliteit, zijn niet aflatende energie. Hij is de hele wereld rondgereisd om andere kunstwerken uit diverse culturele achtergronden te ontdekken en om daarmee te helpen de westerse kanon van de kunstgeschiedenis te verbreden en te dekoloniseren.
De tweede reden waarom hij dit eredoctoraat verdient volgens mij is omdat hij een groot hart heeft voor de literatuur. Elkins is nu al bijna 20 jaar bezig aan een 5-delige pentaptiek, een grote roman. En je ziet hem daarin fotografie, tekeningen, diagrammen, maar zelfs bladmuziek combineren met tekst tot een nieuw creatief geheel.
Om al deze redenen, mevrouw de rector,
verzoeken wij u op voordracht van de Academische Raad
het eredoctoraat van de KU Leuven te verlenen aan
professor Dr. James Elkins.
Professor James Elkins, KU Leuven is honoring you for your exceptional contribution to the field of art history and for opening it to new methodological approaches, for your influential reflection on the power of images and your advocacy of experimental scholarly writing, for your key role in raising awareness for the need for a more global and post-colonial approach to the study of art and culture, for your confident and unwavering commitment to the arts and humanities, and for delivering crucial insights into the state of the world today and tomorrow. For all these reasons, I hereby bestow upon you, in my capacity as Rector of KU Leuven, and with the approval of the Academic Council, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa of our university. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Lovely.
Congratulations.
I've been watching this glass the whole time. Well, I mean, I'm delighted about this. And I just want to thank everyone, and especially Hilda and Sasha. There was kind of bewilderingly amazing support and amazing video. I have only a few comments because I told Karen before the meeting that I didn't have a formal speech, so we traded 2.5 minutes. I took 2.5 minutes away. I thought I would just add a little bit something about interdisciplinarity, since it's been on everyone's mind in the introduction and throughout the day. Interdisciplinarity is something that's universally desired, especially in EU and North America and other universities, and it leads to things like centers of excellence and so on, and it underwrites to some degree events like these. I was told, and I believe this is more or less true, that the original impetus for universities to follow interdisciplinarity as an ideal came from the Manhattan Project. Because that was a collaboration, interdisciplinary collaboration that resulted in a concrete outcome and inspired a number of additional discoveries. From that beginning point, interdisciplinarity, I think, became complicated and problematic because the humanities got their hands on it and toyed with it, as we often do. And interdisciplinarity now means, especially in the humanities, something more like traveling from your home discipline out into outer space until you don't feel the pull of any discipline. I feel if your discipline that you were educated in is like your home or like your parents, then you're expected to stray. But you don't want to go so far that when you go home, your parents don't recognize you. You want to make sure that you have some sort of connection. And in the humanities, this is very much open to question. There is also transdisciplinarity that was actually proposed by Jean Piaget, the child psychologist, in 1974 or something like that. And now there's postdisciplinarity, which has been the subject of entire books and conferences, and I'm not going to, I can't in my 2.5 minutes talk anything about that. And subdisciplinarity, which originally was nameable fields within your field, but now, thanks to the humanities, also means, according to one humanities scholar, playing around in the basement of your house, of your discipline, doing something that kids do. So in all of this, I think it's a great mass of confusion, this literature, in all of these ideals that people have. I think there's one common thread that leads all the way back to the Manhattan Project in a way, and that is the idea that if you are somehow outside of your home discipline, but maybe not in interstellar space, you're in a space of freedom. You have a space of intellectual freedom, a space of political freedom, and a space of imaginative freedom, and that's the kind of interdisciplinarity that seems to be that can still bind the sciences and the humanities and the whole university together. So I thought I'd just leave with that thought, 2.5 minute thought. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us here, Professor Elkins. Our final honorary doctorate goes to geneticist and epidemiologist, Professor Ségolène Aimé. She works tirelessly to raise awareness for rare diseases in Europe and worldwide. Professor Ségolène Aimé was nominated by Professor Marion Delcroix and Professor Geert Matthijs. Please join us in watching this video.
Par définition, les maladies rares surviennent chez moins d'une personne sur 2000. Et ce qui veut dire qu'individuellement, les patients sont très isolés. Quand on regroupe toutes les maladies rares, il y en a plus de 6000, on arrive à une population en Belgique de plus d'1 demi-million d'habitants, ce qui représente en fait plus que les patients qui ont eu un diagnostic ou qui vivent avec un cancer. Ségolène Aimé est une généticienne qui a passé l'essentiel de sa carrière à mettre en évidence, à augmenter la prise de conscience de l'importance des maladies rares et qui a réussi à mettre les politiciens en action, aussi bien au niveau français qu'au niveau européen, de façon à développer des plans maladies rares.
Ségolène Aimé is opgeleid als arts in Parijs. Maar tegelijk met haar opleiding in de geneeskunde heeft zij ook een master behaald in de medische statistiek. En het is die combinatie van twee interesses die heel haar carrière mee bepaald heeft. Zij heeft vanaf het midden van de jaren 80 een eerste Franse databank aangelegd met informatie over waar zitten de gespecialiseerde artsen voor bepaalde zeldzame ziekten, waar gebeurt er wetenschappelijk onderzoek, waar zitten er klinische studies. En al die informatie heeft ze samengebracht in wat ze Orphanet heeft genoemd. En dus een nationale databank waarin die gegevens beschikbaar gemaakt worden voor iedereen.
Elle a aussi créé un journal qui s'appelle le Orphanet Journal, qui permet aux gens de publier des articles sur les maladies rares, alors que, évidemment, quand on publie sur un ou deux cas, c'est un peu difficile parfois dans la littérature d'avoir des journaux avec un impact important. Donc elle a mis aussi ce journal au service de la communauté des maladies rares.
Op dit moment is Orphanet aanwezig in meer dan 40 landen en wordt voor elk van die landen een inventaris gemaakt van wie zorgt voor welke patiënt, wie zorgt voor welk onderzoek en waar kunnen patiënten terecht.
Ségolène Aimé a eu un impact extrêmement important sur la politique de santé, aussi bien au niveau français qu'au niveau européen et au niveau international. Et donc, l'initiation de ça a été des groupes de travail qui ont permis de faire le plan maladies rares en France en 2004.
En van daaruit werd ze dan vanuit Europa aangezocht om te zeggen van laat ook iemand werken aan een Europees beleid rond zeldzame ziekten. En de facto heeft zij een stuk van die policy geschreven. Een policy die daarna door de Europese Commissie is uitgerold.
Et elle a chaque fois été à l'initiative de ces comités, de ces task force. Chaque fois en tant que présidente, elle a vraiment drivé, elle a vraiment guidé le développement de l'Organisation des maladies rares dans le monde entier. Donc c'est vraiment un impact global, comme on dit, worldwide, sur la politique de santé dans les maladies rares.
Dus heel veel van haar gedrevenheid komt vanuit het idee dat de patiënten en de families met zeldzame ziekten echt de zorg verdienen die ze nodig hebben en niet zomaar moeten verloren lopen in een gezondheidszorgsysteem dat niet aangepast is aan hun specifieke noden.
On n'attend pas tellement des médecins qui se mêlent de politique, hein, et donc elle n'a pas été une politicienne elle-même. Elle est arrivée à ouvrir la porte des hommes politiques et des décideurs pour que ces idées soient translatées en mesures, ce qui est vraiment très difficile. Donc on peut avoir plein de bonnes idées quand on est au contact du patient et dire il faut ça et ça, mais arriver à à faire bouger les politiques dans ce sens-là pour quelque chose qui est rare, c'est remarquable.
Om al deze redenen, mevrouw de rector, verzoeken wij u op voordracht van de Academische Raad
het eredoctoraat van de KU Leuven te verlenen aan Dr. Ségolène Aimé.
Professor Ségolène Aimé, KU Leuven is honoring you for your commitment to rare diseases, to vulnerable patients, and to fighting for earlier diagnosis and better treatment. For your incredible impact on the French and international rare diseases landscape and your exceptional ability to organize information and structure healthcare. For your innovative and comprehensive initiatives in genetics, ethics, and health data. For all these reasons, I hereby bestow upon you, in my capacity as rector of KU Leuven, and with the approval of the Academic Council, the degree of Doctor Honoris Causa of our university. Félicitations.
Rector Vermeer, dear colleagues, your recognition of my contribution to science and society touches my heart deeply. I would particularly like to thank Marion Delcroix and Gert Matthijs for promoting my candidacy and presenting me so well. William Harvey, an English physician, said in 1657, "There is no better way to advance the proper practice of medicine than to give our minds to the discovery of the usual law of nature by the careful investigation of cases of rarer forms of disease." He was totally right. It took me decades to rediscover this evidence. Rare diseases is the most interesting medical field. That's for the young people, you know. When I was young, I felt that in order to be able to find my place in the world, I had to understand it. It is why I studied medicine, to understand humans. I'm not sure I did. Statistics, to take a step back and zoom out, and fundamental genetics to understand the mechanisms of life and zoom in. I started working as a medical geneticist in a children's hospital. Very quickly, I was inspired by Professor Herman van den Berg, the driving force behind integrated genetic medicine, who paid equal attention to the psychological dimension of genetic services as to their medical and scientific dimension. The Center for Human Genetics at KU Leuven was my model, with also Jean-Pierre Freins, Jean-Jacques Cassiman, Gary Eversky-Bohms, and later Gert Matthijs, who shared the same values. Why did I follow the path you described? There was no internet at the time when I started, no books, no teaching. So I built a database on genetic diseases and a computerized diagnostic support system in the 70s just for myself, to be less incompetent. I started diagnosing ultra-rare diseases and built a reputation. In the mid-90s, rare diseases suddenly were placed on the political agenda by the Human Genome Project and by the European Regulation on Orphan Drugs, which was in preparation. Suddenly, my 20-year-old database attracted funding and became accessible thanks to the internet. Orphanet took off rapidly, serving millions of people. It expanded to include all rare diseases, their classification, their description, genes involved, available treatments, patient association, diagnostic laboratories, research projects, clinical trials, registries, and biobanks. First in French, then in English, German, Italian, Spanish, Dutch, Portuguese, Polish, and Czech. All this was made possible thanks to the collective efforts of 40 countries and national and European funding. The European Orphan Drug Regulation has enabled innovations to reach the market, and in 10 years, to account for half of all pharmaceutical and biotech innovations. As nothing is ever completely rosy, science has produced effective therapies, but at such prohibitive prices that even the wealthier healthcare systems cannot afford for them. That's a pity, really. France was the first country, as it was said, to adopt a national public health plans for rare diseases in 2004, followed by all European countries and some others at world level. Rare diseases really emerged from the shadow when Orphanet provided free access to its nomenclature and coding system. Without a code, diseases do not exist in our digital world. I spent 10 years getting the ORPHA codes adopted by WHO. They are now in the new edition of the International Classification of Diseases. In the sector of rare diseases, the academic world has shown the power of cross-disciplinary and cross-country collaboration and the value of open science. I hope that Belgium will find its own way to organize excellent services for rare patients at the federal level. I know that I am asking a lot, but I have suggestions that I will propose in my lecture tomorrow. In closing, I want to express my gratitude for honoring me. I am tremendously proud when I consider that you have placed me alongside the other recipients from this year and previous years. What an honor. Thanks from the bottom of my heart, and long live KU Leuven, and continue to stand up for science and society. Thank you.
Félicitations pour ce doctorat honoris causa, Professor Remy. And now, as you can see, back to the music, once again performed by Luca Sachs. And this time we're heading for sunnier shores because we travel to Mexico with one of the most famous works by the Mexican composer Arturo Márquez. Danzón number 2, written in 1993. And it is often called Mexico's second national anthem. Márquez based this piece on an old salon dance from Cuba, which used to be incredibly popular in the dance parlors of Mexico City. The music is light and sensual, yet it carries a subtle touch of nostalgia. Please welcome in a minute back to the stage Luca Sachs, conducted by Kevin Houben. Hallo, hallo. And just like that, the first hints of summer have arrived here in Leuven, thanks to Luca Sachs, conducted by Kevin Hoban. That brings this academic session to a close. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our guests of honor for joining us here today. It's been a true pleasure and an honor to welcome you here today. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank all of you most sincerely for your presence here, and you are hereby cordially invited to the festive reception. May I simply ask you to remain standing until the academic reception has left the hall. Thank you, and I wish you all a pleasant afternoon.